second generation immigrant, British Asian, working class, Indigenous Nepali. All terms I strongly identify with, all terms that uniquely shape the way I view the world and how the world views me. All terms I had to grow to associate myself with. For years, I sat in predominantly white classrooms amongst my classmates who had no issue with treating me like the other. My people's history was completely ignored. Was it not worthy of being taught? When we would lightly brush past the topic of race, I felt seen by my teachers and classmates for the first time, but with piercing stares, as if I existed to represent all non white individuals, as if my sole purpose was to explain or validate the traumas of racism. At 14, I was told that as an Asian person, the model minority, so called theory, should be taken as a compliment. Of course, this all disgusted me, but I never spoke out. I was too afraid of being viewed as troublesome, too afraid of disrupting the peace. Operating in a system where whiteness was the ideal, I was desperate to be accepted. Throughout my childhood, I ended up downplaying my Asianness. I allowed my worth to be dictated by the views that surrounded me. I thought if I remained silent and blended in, it would be easier that way. I was so confused when I was still one of them instead of one of us, further trapping me in a warped cycle of shame. When I did finally speak out, I was no longer just the new kid at school. I was the new Asian kid. The new Asian kid who was easily triggered and sensitive. After a lack of support from teachers, I started to receive death threats from my peers. And so I began hiding myself for white comfort, silencing myself for white comfort, playing to white comfort. This meant biting my tongue to maintain my safety and being backed into a corner for their convenience, whilst at the detriment of my own. When the time for university came round, I was elated. I was going off to study anthropology. Surely this would be like a breath of fresh air, I thought. What I found was that the reading list was largely white. The only time non white and non cisgender heterosexual authors were regularly mentioned was during topics of race and gender. My journey as a diversity mark officer has been almost like a reawakening. Going into my training, I definitely struggled. No matter how hard I tried, I just could not center my real identity. When trying reflexive exercises, I never spoke about what made me unique or my lived experiences. I had to go through a very candid process of unlearning what I had been taught and made to feel about myself. What I had been made to believe were my weaknesses became my strengths. I found myself in a space where I could grow and flourish. Here, I was allowed to take up space. Now it's time to prioritize the concerns of BIPOC students, mature students, disabled students, care experienced students, of LGBTQIA+ students, working class students, immigrant students, of every student whose concerns have not been prioritized.